What's up, friends? Welcome to the 2.6 podcast with Luke and Adrian. On this podcast, we focus on Web3, business, and achieving your personal potential. Today, we have a special guest as a part of our Web3 Project Spotlight series. We're excited to welcome KFC, the Chief Technical Officer for the Chikn Project, a standout on the Avalanche blockchain. We'll dive into KFC's journey from being a Web2 developer in fintech to part of the Chikn Dream Team in Web3. We'll cover the challenges of building a game, learning on the fly, and managing expectations in a fast-paced Web3 environment. As with all of our episodes, none of what you hear today is to be considered financial advice. This is purely for entertainment and educational purposes. With that all said, let's talk Chikn. Welcome to the 2.6 podcast with Luke and Adrian. Today we are very excited to introduce a special guest. We have KFC from the Chikn Project. He is one of the lead developers on that project, and we're really excited to have you on. So KFC, welcome to the 2.6 podcast, man.
Well, thank you for having me here. I'm very excited and nervous.
Yeah, no, you're doing great, man. We're excited to have you. We've obviously been a big fan of your work, both with your development on the project itself, but even just your connection with the community. You've been just fantastic at being active in the Discord, active on Twitter/X, and it's great to have you with us, man.
Yeah, no, thank you. Like, I'm trying my best to kind of be on a bit more social aspect as well. I mean, obviously, coding is my background, but being on social kind of a bit cooler. Get to chat with people.
But cool, man. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're wearing your San Fran Champions hat. It's always good to see. But it gets things started off a little bit. So tell us a little bit about your story. Tell us what got you into the Web3 space. Maybe a little bit how you kind of got and met the Chikn devs themselves, the dream team as we like to call them. But how did you get into your role as being a leading Chikn dev?
Yeah, so it's actually pretty funny. So I guess I'll start back in when I start cryptocurrency basically. I can't remember exactly what year, but I know the Bitcoin was at probably less than $1 at the time. So we were like, oh, what's this cool stuff? Blockchain. Trying to do stuff. I was mining the blockchain. I think already in Australia by then. Was mining the blockchain and all that stuff. It was slow, but I got a few. Me and Hans solo we gone way back basically. So we basically playing around, trying to set up. Sending the Bitcoin around, and it was funny because we were sending like one Bitcoin to each other just to test thing out. Imagine one Bitcoin, right? Like just to test it out and then lose everything that you had in your wallet. That's pretty funny. Yeah, but back then, literally you can't do anything about because there isn't a legit exchange in Australia. So we were like, oh man, it's hard to buy. The only thing you can do is you can basically mine it or send it from someone else's wallet, but you can't really buy them. So back then we're like, oh, let's create an exchange, But then the thing didn't take off because nobody using it and we kind of sort of don't know what we're doing. So a bit of background myself. I've been in the IT industry for the last 16 years. Mainly working for majority of the bank in Australia. And fintech startup as well. So we did quite a lot of banking system. So on the day-to-day, it's just like coding stuff. So coding is nothing new to us basically. Then one day, I think probably just the end of 2020. Then that's where kind of like I start getting into all these smart contract stuff. But obviously, when I say smart contract, I'm talking about all these this shitcoin and all this stuff. I was like, oh, what's all these pancake swap? I never heard of them before. And I was like, that is something interesting. Like, this is funny. So I was massively degen back into again. So I mean, throughout the whole time, I actually hold Bitcoin and ETH and all this stuff. But I think mostly XRP as well back then. But then to one point, I spent a lot of my money on degening all these high APR coin in PancakeSwap, and that's kind of like where I learned about putting an LP pool and all this stuff, how to add them in, and so that was interesting. Wasn't the easiest part to be honest, but obviously greed kicked in, like all these 400-500% project. I'm like, oh man, there's a new point. We jumped in. So I jumped in quite a lot of them. Like there's a vet coin. There's a few. Basically, some coin actually even Moon. What's that? Safe Moon and all that stuff. We went in all those pretty early. Obviously being very stupid, holding on to way too long. Didn't cash out. So yeah, by the time when I catch out, it's all gone. So which is pretty funny. Like a huge lesson learned anyway. It's like I was seeing the APR going up, and was like wow, and I bought quite a lot like Ohm coin, Ohm. What's that term? The one from in Avalanche is the time coin
Oh
from
yeah, it was
uh
Wonderland.
Wonderland time. Yeah, and then there's quite a lot of folk going out. Like I think it's like there's uh climber and all this stuff. So I gone on all those as well. Like pretty degen. Anyway, so during that time I was like doing all this degen stuff, and then basically Han Solo came to me. You're like, hey, a group of my mate is interested in doing NFT. And to be honest, at the time I was literally just saying, what's NFT, man? People buying JPEG. I could just copy it. Right? I didn't get it, and yeah, it was kind of sort of for me it was a joke. Like seriously, like who buy JPEG? Who paying like 10,000 of it? And so like, come on, man, let's join in. I don't want to do it myself, Let's do it together. So I was like, okay. So I told him, look, if I'm going in, I probably want to do a smart contract because that's probably something interested me, and then nothing else. He's like, well, sure. You go do your smart contract. And we'll just build the rest. We'll build the site and just see how we go. Yeah, and basically the team come together. The funny thing is, so we've been talking to the team the whole time, and you know what? We never met them in person
Really?
until a long time. Yeah, like we were working on the project for a while. Yeah, like we always online. Like we always just talking every single day, but I never met them in person, apart from Han Solo. I mean, obviously lockdown and all this stuff as well, kind of like sort of limit us meeting in person. But yeah, it was interesting. The project was going on for like close to 8-9 months before I seen the person in real person. That was pretty funny.
Very cool. So awesome. So you like you and Han Solo really kind of got together, got the Chikn project going. What like how did y'all like actually get it to be built? Like so it was all virtual. So it sounds like so y'all were like remote and coordinating like that. I think Sherbak told us a little bit about kind of how y'all ended up on the Chikn side. I'm curious, like from a tech perspective, I know there's a lot of factors to consider in terms of which chain you're going to pick. How did y'all kind of make some of those decisions in terms of how to build on
Yeah.
that vision?
Yeah, so at the time, to be honest, we were looking at Solana and any EVM chain, basically. I don't think we look at Polygon at all, to be fair. Even though we did have some, like, I mean, I personally played some game on Polygon at the time. So I was like, okay, but never thought about it, to be honest. We only look at the L1 chain at the time. And yeah, we looked at Solana, and get it working because there's a lot of high throughput transaction. And I was like, I was like, oh well, how about me spending a bit of time? Because will be honest with you guys, like that was like kind of the early beginning where into the smart contract world for us, right? Like obviously we've been coding for a while, but never actually done any smart contract. So my world was like, oh look, I'll do some smart contract. So I spent a bit of time on Rust and then spend a bit of time on EVM stuff, basically Solidity. And I find EVMs a lot simpler to understand to get it going, and less of a chance of getting error on the contract, basically, compared to Solana. Like so now you kind of have to be quite a what do you call veterans a little bit more. You need to work on a few projects, getting the nitty gritty out before you become very good at it. So I was like, oh look, let's do EVM because I'm very comfortable with it. I picked it up pretty quickly, did a lot of testing, and it's like, well, let's try it, right? And deploy quite a lot of project onto testnet. I think at the beginning we did in East, and then was like the gas was so expensive even in testnet, and we're like, okay, let maybe look at other chain. And I think barbecue is just saying, oh, let's put on Avalanche. Then I was like, okay, well, and I was like, oh, at the time I was like, oh, I was in Wonderland time, and they was like, yeah, why not? There's a big hype at the time, but there isn't that many NFT project going on at the time. I think mainly it's the tech. We should kind of it come down to Solidity or Rust, and then we chose the Solidity, and from there we kind of go, okay, which chain can we go on to? And I think at the time, Clark and Barbecue was like, yeah, let's go to Avalanche because the NFT haven't boomed yet. I think the Air project was there at the time. They was the only project that actually had over 1 million TVL, like a market value. And we're like, wow. And then when I checked their website, I actually like it. I mean, it's like it's pretty clean, nice, and I was like, wow, very nice project. And they were the only one that actually kind of over 1 million. And we're like, okay, so market's still pretty new to us. Maybe this is the place to be in. So yeah, so that's kind of sort of where we landed basically.
So I think it works out well too, because I think Solidity is really the coding language that's used on most chains now. I think there's maybe a couple that others that use Rust, but I think Solidity pretty much you use that across any EVM chain, which is a lot of them.
Yeah.
So,
and I think
cool.
it was good because that we can basically think if Avalanche wasn't the right place, we can just redeploy the same contract onto I know Polygon at the time. I don't think Op wasn't there, Arbitrum wasn't there. Literally just Polygon. At the time when we first started, there isn't that much L2 chain out there, to be honest. And it just ETH and a few, like it's a literally handful. I think Near was there already, but Near literally had no volume basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
How did you guys get started with? I mean, I know we know the kind of the backstory behind Chikn and the Tri tokenomics, but what kind of challenges did you guys run into to create it all? I mean, because it looks easy, I guess, on our side now that we've been, playing in the project for so long.
Yeah.
I remember my entry point was, I think I want to say it was through Trader Joe. They had all those little liquidity pools on the side, so I was messing around with all the yield and whatnot. So it was like a special or a boost, or I don't remember what they used to call it, but they had like a short period of time to where they were paying feed.
Yeah.
If I were to pair up, I want to say it was AVAX and
AVAX and egg, yeah.
And I was getting feed, and I was like, what the hell's this damn feed thing? And but I mean, how did all that start? Like I know, and maybe a loaded question in itself, but how hard was it to put all that stuff together?
Look at if you look back now, it wasn't that complicated to be honest. But at the time when we were working on it, it's pretty tough for me because Hansel and I were working till 2 to 3 a.m. every single night for at least 4 months straight, literally. Literally, we spend the moment, I think, after dinners. So just bear in mind, at the time, we still have a full-time job before we launch. Basically, we're doing our full-time job normally, and then, at night, after dinner, we jumped on and do all the work. And we were literally just coding every single day. So, the contract was, took me over a month to get the first contract working, I think, in the state that I wanted. And then Hansel kind of set up the infrastructure, getting everything deployed. And so we started going there. But it took us quite a long time. We were burning 80, 90 hours a week every single day. Like the whole week, we just crazy till midnight almost every day. I think the only time we got off maybe Saturday and Sunday where Hansel's like, no, look guys, I need to spend time with my family a bit. But at night we still jumped on again. That's the crazy amount of time we put in. So I think you guys heard the story. It's the NFT came where Hansel took a picture on the internet. It's like, oh look, I'll put this together, and we have a laugh and we're like, oh, this is bloody fucking cute chicken. And we were like, okay, let's maybe play around with this. So then Gravy kind of get all the assets together. Hansel was kind of like, maybe let me create this AI generated, or not AI, all the computer generated, the rarity. So he literally crafted the whole tool up by himself. Because at the time there wasn't a tool out there. You could actually either do a Photoshop, kind of one by one, But obviously everyone else wrote their own tool. So we decided to write our own tool as well. So, merging layers and all this stuff. Yeah, so that's sort of how we started in the beginning. Yeah.
So in terms of the traits, there's some that they're obviously really desirable from a rarity standpoint, but there's also some that just are cool. And I'll tell you first, like my favorite trait in the game is the hoverboard. So I'm a huge Back to the Future fan. So I had to make sure that I got the McFly hoverboard on there, and somebody was really quick to name theirs. So they actually named their rooster Marty McFly. So I was like stalking down that bird for a very long time, and one day I happened to notice it for sale, and I probably way overpaid, but I now have both Marty McFly and Cock Brown as two roosters that I have, and I'm very excited for that. So I'm curious for you, like, are there any traits that, like, forgetting like their like rarities or those kinds of things, or like how it might play into cockfighting or things like that you just really like in terms of the game?
Look, in terms of rarity, I'm a big fan of anime cartoons. So the Saiyan, the Super Saiyan hit, that was like that's like I'm gonna get that. But then, man, always been outpriced. Seriously, at the time when because obviously it's all out there, so we didn't actually mint ourselves. We kind of like let people mint, and that happened. So by the time we were like, okay, I want to go buy some, people put up ridiculous amount of price going up, and I'm like, man, to get priced out myself. And then
Oh my gosh.
when the hype was so big, everyone was like, oh, they keep pushing up the price every couple of weeks. I was like, man, whenever I gonna get it? And then we were like, oh, they'll get priced out. So yeah, so that's one of the trade in the Chikn that I like a lot. I'm okay with tungsten. I like it, but not the biggest fan. But in terms of rooster, I like the one with the little chicken on the back. That
Yeah,
was
on the little
my thing. I
saddle.
was like, yeah, and I like that is hilarious, man. That's like funny, and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of like my take. But yeah, I mean, I do like a lot of trade. Like, I mean, in terms of trade itself, it's actually mainly Gravy and a few other guys. Like, I had almost zero involvement in that. Like, I'm just like when they show me the trade, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But like because the trade itself, when Gravy draw it, it's just part of it. So you have to mix it onto the picture then in order to see the trade, and then you go like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So to me, it's like I didn't when we saw the trade, I was like, yeah, that's cool, but I can't imagine it yet until it's merged. So yeah, the amount of merging that Han Solo did, like we had so many runs to go through, and then he created a website so that we can do QA on it. It's like like the 10,000. Just keep going. So it was like massive, crazy. Yeah.
I have a
That
burning question, man, and I'm not sure if I'm alone with this question, but is that anybody's feet or muscles with the arms? Is that that trait of the feet and the muscles? Is that anybody's feet? I need to know. There's some awkward fetishes out there, and I want to know if that's one of your whose fetish is that?
Probably Gravy. Probably Gravy. You gotta kill me. It came from his studio, so definitely him.
See, I knew it. Real feet.
Yeah, feet fetish.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That would explain also why they're going to be so. And I'm forgetting the name of the partner game, but I know there's a partner game that has that actual bird in it. That's probably why, because it's Gravy's feet. He nominated that one for it.
Yeah, he gotta kill me. Like, stop tarnish my name.
No, now late night with Gravy, we're gonna have a great question for him. So he can
like, what are your feet fetish? Yeah.
So what kind of like challenges did you guys? I know the whole thing was probably a challenge, but what were some like the greatest challenges that you guys ran into with Chikn? Like,
the biggest challenge that I had personally was the amount of kilobyte you can put into a contract. It's just way so little compared to when we came back from that typical Web2 business world, right? Where you can write as much stuff you want, and here's like you kind of bound to the limit of how much you can put in. And that was the biggest pain point for us, to be honest, like to work around the limit, because like in the first few contracts that I deployed, it just doesn't deploy into the test net because just keep going over the size limit, right? And we just kind of like, okay, I have to trim this down, create a upgradable contract and all this stuff, so that once we did the mint, then we change it off later on. So that's the reason why like we end up instead of putting just a normal contract, we end up putting a upgradable contract so that we can continue upgrading the metadata, so that for example, when we first started the Chikn, we just had the main contract, and we added for example the KG in the change of name and all this stuff onto the contract itself. So everything's on the contract basically. So that's kind of like the chance that we have in terms of smart contract around that. Yeah, and then I think the biggest, apart from that, was timing wise, when to launch certain thing. I think that was basically pretty hard to kind of like look at stuff. I think barbecue and Clark was the main guy, like, constantly sizing out market, how's the market going and all that stuff, looking at when to launch certain thing. So yeah, so those two are very, very good at that aspect.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the upgradable contract is really definitely one of the things that sets y'all apart. And I think as you kind of think about like the possibilities of Chikn, if y'all had not done that, obviously like the growing of the Chikn and that kind of thing is part of that. But in terms of having a game, like you kind of really need the ability to do that, right? Because if y'all want to change any of the way that, like if you want to add a feature to the game, if the contract was like locked, then you'd have to like essentially burn the current chickens and replace them with new ones. And that just creates a whole bunch of complexity and challenge. So
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's the one of the reason in the beginning we start off straight away. We're just gonna go, we're gonna do upgradable because of the way how the vision was further way before the actual everything else come through. Like the fact that when we launched the Chikn, if you look, the contract itself just doesn't have huge amount of data in there. But then we have to get rid of a lot of stuff that we pre-written and then kind of add them back in at each stage. For example, when the egg got released, then we add the naming contract in and all this stuff. So start adding the stuff into the fold, and how to burn the contract and all that stuff. So quite a lot of things that we changed throughout the year. And definitely it's kind of a way that if we want to keep stuff on chain, then we needed that flexibility to be able to change stuff, basically.
yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned naming, and as you know, one of us likes to name our chickens and is a good family farm, and the other one of us runs a factory farm. So I need your help getting Mr. Adrian here to really see why he needs to name the chickens and why being a factory farmer is just no good for the world, and no one wants to have these poor chickens.
Actually, the naming is kind of great because we at that time we were. I think we can talk about it, right? Let me think. I think we can. I don't know. So yeah, at the time we had something really, really cool that we had in mind. I'm not sure we're gonna bring it back or not, but maybe. So basically, everyone had to name the chicken, right? So we want a way so that people can go see your wallet directly, so that it's kind of publicly to everyone through a unique URL. So based on the name that you name your whole wallet, basically. So that was kind of like the aspect that we were kind of like, oh, that's gonna be cool. Everyone had their own unique domain. In a sense, that was kind of like the idea at the time. And look, there's so many ideas being spun up every single time we had meeting. It's like just so like Hansel always saying, we have more idea than we can actually implement.
Yeah.
It's just constantly with idea coming through, and then we're like, man, come on, we need to dial back, come on, jump back, because things take time. It doesn't take like one day. It takes fucking long time to build it.
Right. Yeah, no, totally. It's a matter of choosing the right ideas for the overall strategy. And even though sometimes you got a good idea and it's like, we'll hold on to that and maybe one day we'll be able to use it. But if you try
Yeah.
to, I think if you try to go too broad in what you're doing, then it's really hard to get the traction that you want. So for sure.
My grandpa told me not to name the chickens. He had a few chickens in the backyard, and he told me
Feeling, right?
never name your chickens. They're not pets, they're food. So even though I'm trying to break that rule, so I guess my big thing is I didn't want to truly name them twice. So I wanted to give them a name, but then I also wanted to kind of stamp or brand them with my Sharp and Spur Ranch, the initials, somewhere on the backside of the name. So there's some deep thought or procrastinating thought going behind all that.
That at one point we were making fun of like how to create game to force people to name this stuff. Is that we were thinking is we allow someone else to name your chicken for you, and then obviously they pay more gas than you do, and then you just keep paying or not gas, like paying the egg war basically. So like let's say you have some like McPhee some guy, and we just go like no, we just name it on top of you. And then you go like, no, I want my name back. I'm gonna keep paying the egg, keep going up and up and up. Just kind of like the way you outbidding each other with the name, basically.
Or pay for a lock.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would want to protect Marty and Doc Brown for sure.
And I think that was kind of like the game thinking that we kind of have, like people like the name and all this stuff. Let's kind of like just make that kind of as a game as well, and someone's like, oh, that's a bad idea, like that become like you naming someone else chicken and all this stuff. So it's like
no, I like my names. So I don't know if you're a fan of Talladega Nights, but in Talladega Nights they have like Ricky Bobby, Cal on Journey, and that. Anyway, when they break up, he names himself El Diablo, which he says is like, Spanish for like a fighting chicken. So like I knew I wanted to name. I have one that has like a fire background and like a hook on his leg and that kind of thing. And I was like, okay, that's going to be El Diablo. So like the second that the naming came to Roosters, I went in there and named him because I didn't want anyone to grab that name. It was like an important name for me to get.
Yeah, that was pretty funny because Sherbrooke was like, I'll make sure that we can't name the same name. And then you see that some people are like being very dodgy, like adding a space, adding thing here and there to the naming, which is funny. Like we were like, that's hilarious. Like people trying to have the same name, just like kind of like a different variation.
Yeah.
Well, if you're second, you're last.
No,
exactly.
Yeah, not first, you're last. But yeah, they my guys. I haven't given them all backstories yet. Some of them do, but. Working on getting the stories for the rest of them. They all have names though, so
yeah, that's good though. I got most of my head name as well. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So one of the things, KFC, I wanted to kind of pick your brain about. So one of the kind of main topics in this space is security. So obviously there's been some stuff that's gone on with Stars Arena and other things like that. And I know that with Chikn, like one of the things that y'all really pride yourself is the security of your contracts and all of that kind of thing. And I know. Obviously you have a background in, fintech, that kind of thing. What is it like? How would y'all describe what you do to make sure that, Chikn stays, secure and, all of the things that go into making that, that level of quality as you build stuff?
Yeah. So there's kind of like two mindsets of thinking because obviously when we first started, like everyone say, right? I mean, this is what, something that Clark was saying, we should audit something that is when you're playing with someone else's money. So one thing that we noticed is that, like, for example, with NFT itself, because we have control of the NFT, like the worst case is, we made a new project for people. Like that's kind of like you buy into the for example, at the time was Chikn, you buy into the Chikn, and if you kind of like, it's something that we can control of, then we kind of like have a little bit less worry about in terms of the security because we can always compensate it to people. But when you start, doing LP farming and all this stuff where people buy AVAX and egg and all this stuff, we don't have control of that. And that's where we kind of like, well, we need security. So we got Hacking to do our audit for us. So it was a long process. I was pretty happy though, because the first contract that I sent to them, there literally no major issues. I think one of them is to do with the gas, that it would increase the gas if you do it this way, and then they recommend it go down to kind of like reduce down the gas cost and all that stuff. Because obviously, you guys know the first saga when we launched the egg contract, where we launched the egg and staking of the egg. At the time, that was like honestly that's my first time writing the staking contract, and I would thought that you can rebind everyone else wallet basically. So instead of using a static formula, but basically I looked at that when you stake in, we look at how you against everyone else, and then when someone else stake in, we look at their against everyone else at that point in time. But then we realized that the moment that you have over 50 people, the gas was literally through the roof. And that's the reason why we had to pull the egg contract and relaunch a new egg, basically. So because the gas fee after 50 people staking was just, I think, close to 1 or 2 AVAX at the time, was ridiculous. Yeah. It's just that because every time when someone stake, we recalculate everyone holding, and if someone stake, we recalculate everyone holding again. And obviously that was kind of like a new move, basically. We should have used a different method, like an average a constant formula or a Merkle tree instead, basically. So that probably be a much better option, to be honest. But yeah.
Was that on the single side staking of egg, or was that on the paired staking?
Yeah, just a single side. When we started with a single side, that was already causing so much issue. So that's why we have to re-roll the egg again. Yeah, and then we're like, oh, we can't do that. It costs too much gas to recalculate everything.
I remember that. I remember actually staking some egg and taking it out, and I didn't get penalized. I was like, ooh, they didn't penalize me for taking out egg.
Yeah,
I felt very lucky.
So that was like, yeah, the time was like there was that hiccup, but then yeah, it was funny. We were like, oh, that was being expected, because when we did a test, we only like had 10, 20 staking. It wasn't doing that much. We're like, oh, it's all right. And we didn't expect within an hour, man, to go boom. Like everyone's like, oh, gas costs too much, and we were like, okay, we need to hold the foot going, pull back the contract, relaunch a new one. So yeah.
Yeah, it's always fun, man, having to redo your work, right? But I think that's the great thing is you guys have always done a really good job with being proactive and taking care of. I mean, I don't really remember any issues, but I mean, like, how do you? I guess that kind of goes into the next question is like how do you guys deal with like the high expectations? Like in the Discord, I know a lot of, not even just Discord, but also just with you can obviously hear a lot of us asking pretty hard questions about time frames and rooster daycare and cockfighting and always asking when. But how do you guys deal with that as a group, and what is it like dealing with those high expectations?
Look, I think it hit everyone differently. I guess it hit me and Hansel probably quite a lot more because of being a dev. It's like we're always looking at how long things gonna take to deliver and all this stuff, and then sometimes we just like there's quite a lot of unrealistic expectation coming from both the community, and even the internal, right? We're like, people might just saying, oh, well, can we just do this? And I was like, well, that's gonna take a couple of weeks, right, to do certain things. So I think that's kind of like the expectation management is difficult, and people in Web3 just always assuming that we're in Web3, they're gonna be faster, but the reality is the coding still need to be done, still need to be tested, still need to be built. You still have to write code. That take a long time, and that's the reason why it does take time, and people don't really truly appreciate coding and even artwork and all this stuff because it does take time to get things out. Like the fact that we have to do multiple iterations just for the UI and all this stuff, that was by itself take a lot of time, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think sometimes folks forget that, hey, this is like I think what is it? You can either have something fast or you can have something good, or you can have something cheap. But you can only pick two of those things.
You can't have three. Yeah, you can't have Exactly.
And
so that's literally the triangle, that dilemma in IT, right? Cheap, fast, and good. That is like a triangle. You can only move two lever around. So if you want something, if you want fast, you're not going to be cheap. Going to cost us a lot more money to build them.
Right.
Right, because
Yeah.
in the end, if we need to expand out people, we hire more people to kind of help us build a lot of stuff as well, right? So that's basically, if you launch something faster, then it would cost a lot more money for us to go through, basically.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. And I think one of the big things too is like, the quality. Like I think you all pride yourself in quality, and that's probably one of the things we appreciate so much is that, y'all have built a quality game. You have built something that is a lot of fun to play. You have built something that's secure. Speaking for ourselves and probably a lot of the community, like that's, one of the things that draws us to the project is, just that we know and we can trust y'all to, deliver things that, have that level of quality, even if it takes a little bit more time. And so
Yeah.
that, and, we know that you're human beings. Like y'all are working really hard to build something good. So we appreciate you.
Yeah, I think especially in a crypto world where, let's say we've been in for a while now, like most projects come and goes, right? Like we probably the longest standing project. I mean, there probably be a few others. We still like long standing and still building stuff, right? Because most projects kind of sort of died off or kind of like in a hiatus situation, just, preserve mode. And yeah, we're still constantly building. And I think it's the passion. I think like we like building stuff. It's fun. When we see people play with the stuff that we did, right? And especially when, in the early beginning where Hensel saying, oh, let's just expose API, people just gonna call them and then they build themselves. And that's where, search that come in, building the website that he's doing, and, Nifty, Shift Grouply, and there's quite a lot of people that start doing quite a lot of things on top of us. And that I feel that is what drive is the community that actually driving the project as well. Like by offering, exposing API, people can see more stuff, they can play with, they can understand more. And I think like you guys, like a lot of people came up with like Excel spreadsheet, pulling data out, sharing that. I think that's just kind of like what we find it very interesting, and that's key motivation for us, to be honest. Like, we built something that the community keep building on top of it. Like, I think that's what kind of like it's the testament of how good things are, like in terms of the community itself, like how much they like the stuff. I mean, if you look at other projects that they didn't offer APIs, there's nobody building anything. They just kind of like waiting for something to be built. But when you offer the option for community, they jumped in and go like, I have time, I'll build something and all that stuff. So I think that's kind of like one of the biggest thing that the decision that made by Hans Solo to expose it out was really good.
I think that's one of the things that definitely speaks to the project too. I mean, you have these people that are passionate about it enough to, spend their time building these kinds of things like search. I mean, he's got like a team of people helping to build his. But then even like, I remember when I first got into the project, I was trying to figure out, which chickens I wanted to buy, that kind of thing. And I was doing all this stuff on my own. And then I discovered that, Cock Terminal really can do all that for me. And so it's just really was, and I forget who built that one. I know Gribbly's working on a new version of that. But I think just having stuff like that, it just makes it, one is it helps the user, but also the fact that, other people in the community care about this enough to build it, just makes you more excited about it too. Because it's like, okay, well, somebody spent hours building this thing to support the project. The team spends all this time to build this. It's, just makes it exciting and good. So I like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of like what we feel that when we go, like for example, like myself, I'm buying a lot in NFT, and I'll be in so many community in Discord, right? I haven't really seen any community that as passionate as this one. I mean, obviously you got all these die hard community from other groups, but it's slightly different, right? The goal was more like hype the project, but our community is like helping out. Like I haven't seen any community when somebody lost something, the other guy would jump in and go like, oh yeah, here, I'll help you out and all this stuff. Like that was a massive, and even like some guy accidentally put the wrong price. I think they put the dot definitely in the price and it was under sale. The guy just offered it back, and I was just like, wow, that's a great community. You never seen that in the crypto world.
Yeah,
absolutely, man.
Sure.
That's usually a tough one. It was Bitmaker. Bitmaker, I think, made the that first site. Is it Cock Terminal? I'm already no. Now
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
messing
yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah.
And Gribbly's
Yeah.
doing a great job with it now too. So, all right, man, you got to tell me, if you were to start off fresh into chicken, what would be your strategy of getting
My
into the
ideal.
game? Yes, what would be your ideal? Say,
Oh,
and
look,
it's hard to say, right? It all
yeah,
depends on how much
yeah,
money you have, of course, to play the game.
yeah,
But
exactly.
but
Yeah.
how
So
would you play?
yeah, obviously the chicken is probably the best, right? Because they're the only one that laying egg, and egg is the fuel for the whole ecosystem. So you, I think that's kind of the best bet. But obviously chicken's a bit higher price compared to everything else. Like at one point I was very much focusing on farmland because farmland actually giving a lot of benefit for a very low barrier of entry.
Yeah, I'm a farmland maxi man.
Yeah.
I like the farmland.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
look, the farmland have quite a lot of benefit, right? Because it now, if you look at it, farmland come with blueprint underneath it. It also, to be honest, there's still 200 Love Monster out there within the farmland. So, shout out to Love Monster team as well. They have kindly offered 200 Love Monster NFT. It's still we had to locate them onto the farmland, so you just have to dig hard enough, and then deploy the worm and claim the NFT as well. So there's 200 of them out there, on the farmland. So yeah, a lot of people keep digging, but they haven't deployed the worm to kind of claim it. So yeah, so that's kind of
very
sort
cool.
of my my 2 cent, right? I think if you like to jump in, farmland would be good. Obviously chicken and rooster is definitely the go-to, but if you want to play around, like have more things to play, farmland is definitely the thing.
Go
I'm
ahead,
looking
bro.
for some honey now. Is it honey time? Honey
Honey trap,
alpha,
honey trap.
alpha honey. Anything you want to share
Yeah, so I won't say it's
for
honey
the
or
for the
alpha,
listeners
but
that are
yeah,
are holding it? And, they're waiting for
yeah,
something good. We need to give them a little
yeah.
taste.
So I mean, yeah. So we do play a lot of thing out there. Like for example, we're looking at the trend and see what can we bring. Like I guess it's something that it's cognizant to us every time when we do something. Is always trying to do the best for the community. The fact that because it's hard to come by, have a great community out there today, and then it's also hard to maintaining it. So every decision that we make or play around in the background is always to make sure that, how do we, um, making sure that, we look after our community, basically, making sure that they're the first person who get um, um, the most value out of it, basically. And we what we're seeing right now is the trend of moving, like, there's a play to earn, play to own and all this stuff, the concept that Clark was mentioned a long time ago. Um, but we feel that there's quite a lot of things that can kind of sort of hyping up, Avalanche ecosystem, because the fact that um, the daily active user in Avalanche itself is quite low compared to ETH, and obviously the whole bear market is actually making everyone going down in terms of the daily active users. So when Frente came on, I personally played it a lot. Star Arena came on as well, and obviously that was a big kind of shift into like bringing people to Avalanche, and that was always our goal in since day one, where we went to Avalanche Summit. We were talking about bridging ETH people over, and then now the whole chicken egg concept of going cross chain to get more people to come back, because in the end the platform worked. The time the finalization of the blockchain was quick. Everything was fast. Things the technology is there, and we always been saying it. Avalanche probably have one of the best tech out there, and the best tech is it's only good for the dev, in a sense that the dev actually reap the benefit. But how do we translate that benefit of the tech into something less technical people can consume? Obviously the fast finalization, and all this stuff actually help user interaction and experience a lot better. And that's something that we're trying to kind of move people toward to. And I think that's kind of like the thing that we're looking at. And so back to the whole social fire is that we've seen the kind of like the peak the coming in, more people coming in, and we were thinking like, how do we maximize that to, when we bring social fire to the platform or blockchain, how can we cast their eye onto other projects, not just NFT, but the GameFi, DeFi, everything on the chain, because the fact that the technology is there, we can support it. That's something that we think is that how can we capitalize on that? And obviously, there's quite a lot of things that we're working on. The one thing that we're working on some sort of like something for people to do in during this bear market, basically. So, keep people like still engaged. And obviously it's hard to kind of release something that people might not feel or see straight away. But then we definitely working on something else as well. Both in terms of the game and also social fire as well. So I think keep I mean I guess it's something that we were looking at is what can we do to bring more people on to the platform as much as possible. And once we got more people, then people with liquidity, they like the problem with each chain are quite isolated. Obviously now we have all these cross chain like CCIP, which we can talk about a little bit later. We got wormhole, we got all these bridges and all this stuff. And how we once people move onto a chain, we should kind of nurture them so that they stay, because obviously the fact that it's really hard to move things in, and we don't want them to kind of leave straight away. And I think that's the biggest thing that we should keep looking at, is not just at our project, but it's like what else is trending right now? What is the best use of our time to capitalize on this so that we can bring more eyes to the project? And obviously, not everyone can agree with our decision, but people might think, we deviate a lot away from what we're supposed to be doing. But that's the thing, is you need to be nimble. You need to be kind of agile enough to be able to kind of, adapt to the situation right now, because you can't just saying, okay, this is the path that we want to go, and then we stick onto it for the next 2 years or 3 years, right? Because the reality is that blockchain is a very moving pace at the moment, and we're still pretty up at the early adopter phase. I think you've probably seen the Gartner hype cycle. Basically, it's literally a graph showing early adopter, and then you get the mass, and you get a big dip down coming where that's where majority of people are saying, oh, this tech doesn't work, and then the hype coming on again, where the mass actually kind of start coming in and start picking that up again. So that's kind of like the the Gartner hype cycle. And if you look at the product lifecycle, I think in terms of blockchain, I first feel that we're still at early adopter level, where, to be honest, I think they're probably just over 2 million active users in all chain today.
Wow.
I don't think there's more than that. Like when I say active, like literally people active. You can't count my friend who actually will buy a chicken one time and then never come back again. That's not active, right? You need to look at the actual active user, probably about 1 to 2 million. That's my number in my mind. I need to fact check that, but I don't think there's a huge amount. And when you look at it around, it's always the same people buying and selling, right? So we are pretty early in the sense that in terms of the early life cycle. So they were going to be a path where you kind of keep going, and then you're going to see a big drop and then come back again. That's where the mass market come in. And what I'm trying to say is that if you look at the trend, is where the trend kind of going, where the liquidity is going. This is where that we need to capitalize on, make the liquidity to stay, because obviously we know that ETH had the most liquidity in terms of any other smart contract. Then once ETH is kind of fulfilled, and then it's literally a cycle where from ETH then people go to like either Polygon, Solana, and all this stuff on other chains. So you can still see the TVL where the money gets spread out. But the one thing that you keep noticing is that liquidity pool is the same pool. It's just that when you go like, oh, if Solana come up, that means ETH come down, because it's the same group of people that moving money in from one place to the other. We haven't gone to a place where a mass market non-crypto people start jumping on, because the hurdle is quite high, the risk is quite high as well. So once we start getting liquidity moving from one place to the others, I think this is where we should capitalize on it. Then jumping on the hype. And yes, it might sound silly for us to kind of like, oh, you know what, we should jump in hype. But that is the only way to keep people stay here, because most people are degen enough that they see like, oh, we're here for money. Once we make money, we go back to ETH again. No, you want to make sure that they stay because they got more stuff they can play around in this whole ecosystem in Avalanche, right? There's quite a lot of great projects out there. And that's why we always being very supportive of any project that are willing to partner with us, because our success is not just about our project, it's about the whole community, it's about AVAX community. People are here because they like the chain, they like the tool, they like the tech, right? But how else we can bring the new eyes coming in? Because obviously we like, it's funny because when we looked at it, like we see a lot of people in Polygon, but when you go look at Polygon itself, it's just the same small group of people there. So obviously the group is a lot bigger than Avalanche, but it's the same concept. Like we're just a smaller whale and a smaller fish compared to the whale out there. But the reality is that when people stay and they're happy with the chain, because obviously Polygon was a lot faster than ETH, so people stay there because the finalization is fast. And then then you got people like the Solana, people where they go, oh look, the dApp is great, stuff, and everything worked while we're moving it and so on. So yes, you're gonna have a diehard fan on the group, but then to be honest, when you look at where the liquidity lie, where people start seeing where can they make money. For example, the Star Arena, people can bet on that. Where people see a huge hype where some guy who invests 300 AVAX and then they turn the portfolio to 3,000 AVAX within 3 days. That's 10x the portfolio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone see that. They're like, I want to capitalize on it. So they move their fund in here. They're going through the hurdle. So we don't want to waste that hurdle that they jumped in and then not to make them stay, right? And then this is where I feel that we should, as every project on AVAX to come together and, help each other saying, what else, show them what else we have here, something to play on. And I think that's where we find that we kind of pivoting ourselves a little bit to kind of like, hyped on to SocialFi as well. So that, because one thing about SocialFi is that the fact that most people that see us, they see our PFP on Twitters. So they see that profile, they go, oh, what's this profile? So many people of them. And that's the reason why in the beginning, Sherlock and I, we kind of like, we're trying to hype it up so that, our name, our PFP get right at the top so that people see us. So when people jumped in, they go, oh, why all these guys at the top? We should follow them. And then from once you follow them, go like, oh, they have some cool project, maybe I'll put some money there once I make money from Star Arena. And I think that's kind of the whole point of playing the game, to make ourselves more visible to more people. Like we can't just be in an echo chamber saying, well, AVAX is the best, but we should be more open armed to go, look, there will be more than one chain for sure. But if people are already here, how can we make their life a lot better? And then, utilize that. We don't want them to go. We want them to kind of play around here a lot more, so that kind of reap the benefit for the whole community, not just Chikn Project, but every other project on chain. So I think we should kind of help each other. And then that's what our ethos is like. We're always trying to help people as much as we can, right? And then the idea is that the community reap the benefit. And yeah, so I mean, I was talking about CCIP and the cross chain. So yeah, so in terms of that aspect is CCIP is another tool that came out recently when we're talking about cross chain. I mean, obviously the timing was pretty perfect because we start looking at cross chain using multi-chain, and obviously multi-chain got some lawsuit issues, I believe. Don't quote me. Something wrong with them. Then it's sort of kind of like not the best go with multi-chain. So we start looking at Layer 0, which is pretty cool, project as well. Be able to do cross-chain messaging very, very quickly. So we were playing that for a while, and then when Chainlink reached out and got, hey, we got this new beta product out there. You want to give it a try? And that's basically the CCIP. So we start playing with it, and then it's actually cool and feel more secure because it's a project that being out there. It's a top 20 token on chain, right? Like if you look at CoinMarketCap, Chainlink is always in top 20. They're big enough to to be able to be there forever. And this is one thing that we always worry about who we're partnering with. It's just, I'm not saying any project is not good. It's just the longevity of the project, because obviously if you use some of the technology and then what happened if the project decided to, for some reason, either move on or something else, the infrastructure that we set up is gone. And then we have to rewrite things again. And that's what one of the things that when we played with multi-chain in the beginning, and it's sort of kind of like, I think they are okay now. But then that kind of make us step back and go like, do we want to use them as the bridge between the chain? Right. And that's one of the big consideration between layer 0 and Chainlink. When the tool came out, we're like, well, Chainlink is much bigger. They're not going to go away. They're going to be here for forever. So this is kind of a one safer bet, right, for us in a sense. But again, we still playing with layer 0 as well. So we might use them for something else that it's not that huge. What do you call mission critical? Because in the end, because we're here to support many other projects out there as well. Like the fact that we're using their tech, that we're supporting them because we're paying the gas fee and paying all this stuff. So that's kind of like the more tool we use out there, the more people we can help out. And that's kind of like our ethos, kind of like, let's try out something here. If it doesn't work, we try this here, and it does work. Worst case, Hansel jumped in like, I'm gonna write myself, and that's always his case. It's like, I'm gonna write myself. This is not doing what I want to do. No, but like, look, to us, it's like, look, I feel that supporting and choosing the right partner, choosing the right, technology is something that we kind of very cognizant of, making sure that we help our community as much as we can. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're going with CCIP and all this stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be really exciting to be able to have that, because I think, being able to get folks that are typically used to using one chain versus another, I think is huge, because I think they're like, as much as on one hand, I kind of think that, okay, well, at some point we're all just going to think of, the different blockchains the same way we think of different types of servers on the internet. Like we don't think about them. But I think right now, and probably for the foreseeable future, it's going to be, as soon as you start getting used to a new chain, you kind of are comfortable with it and that kind of thing. So like I use like Ethereum, I use Avalanche, I use Solana a little bit. For a little while, I was using BNB, used Polygon a little bit as well. But as soon as a new one comes out there that I either can't use in MetaMask or have to find a whole new thing, like you mentioned Near a little bit earlier, like that one, it just goes straight off of my ledger and it's just a little bit different. And so there is this like learning curve anytime you go to a new one. So the more that, people like projects can do to make it simple to like, hey, this is very close to what you already know, and let's help you get over here. And now you're comfortable using it just like the other ones that you maybe grew up in.
Yeah, and I think that was the key thing when we're looking at cross-chain, is like, how can we make the life easier? And it's from our website, and then obviously some of you have seen the toggles that are going out there already, but then we haven't integrated the rest. But the fact that we want to make it as seamless as possible for people, but obviously there are always some hurdle here and there, right? I mean, we won't say that we're the best at making this UI, but we're saying we're trying our best to make it as simple as for us, even as a tech guy. I mean, as a tech guy, I'm happy to jump through the hoop a lot of things, but a lot of non-tech guys were like, oh man, so many clicks and all this stuff. And so I think that's kind of like the thing that always back in my mind, where Graybridge is just saying, oh, it's too many clicks, it doesn't make sense and all this stuff. Like, so that's just something that we've always with us to understand that we trying our best to make the user experience as best as possible. And people need to understand that there won't just be one chain. There will be multi-chain out there running in different utility for it, right? Like, something that you want fast and secure, you probably want to be on Avalanche layer 1, but where you want to move to better liquidity, you might want to move to ETH, or Polygon or this stuff where you can have much more flexibility to do something with that product. So I think being chain agnostic is something that is actually good. But since our home base is Avalanche, we want to make sure that, we look after the community, we look after each other project, we support each other, where we can. And I mean, this is kind of like, Web3 is a lot harder to run compared to Web2, to be honest. Like, I never thought that it would be this, time consuming, mental consuming. And then sometimes that's why it was like, well, sometimes we'll probably need a timeout to kind of step back and go recharge ourselves, because, Web3 world is completely different to, Web2, where, people are much more appreciative of the time you put in.
So in terms of kind of what, what's on the horizon, I know there's only certain things that you're able to share with us, but, what would you say that you're excited about when it comes to, the project as a whole, whether it's something to come, something that's, already been delivered, those kinds of things. What kind of excites you and keeps you, looking forward to what you're building there?
Look, to be honest, I enjoy the whole lot, but the game aspect is what I like the most, and the game theory is something that really resonated because the fact that people don't naturally think about it, but the reality is it's always there. So obviously, creating game is something that always in the back of our mind, like something that we can kind of help people. So there might be something, something stupid that Hansel and I decided to just do something, something crazy, maybe something that for you guys to look at. I don't know. But yeah, it probably won't be part. I would say it won't be part of the deliverable of the chicken itself, but it's probably something something that we just did it ourselves. Getting some help from gravy and all this stuff. But it's not kind of original in the timeline, but it's something that we find it interesting. Something that potentially there'd be something.
All right, so some surprises on the horizon. It sounds like. I love
Holding
it.
the honey tight.
Look, I guess it's like, look, better to have no expectation than you have no disappointment, right? So I guess for us, it's kind of like, oh, look, we're trying out something. If something's cool, something fun, then it's good. But then if it doesn't work out, it's okay. It's like, we're always experimenting stuff. So I guess it's good to kind of like, give ourselves a chance to kind of play with something. If it doesn't work, you know what, take it offline.
Yeah,
nice.
100%.
No, that totally makes sense. So something more fun, and kind of just a side thing that we may enjoy or we may figure out. That makes sense. Awesome.
Well, look, when we talk about it, we're so excited about it. So.
Well, KFC, this has been awesome. We've really enjoyed having you on today. Anything else that you would just kind of want to share with the community in terms of any parting thoughts that you have, or things that you want the community to know, or anything that you'd like to share before we close out?
Yeah, I think probably not community to know. I feel that the crypto market is tough for everyone, not including ourselves as well, not just the community. I feel that people need to kind of be less, what you call less hatred and all this stuff, to be more, spread love rather than hatred. Like, congrats people. Sometimes making joke on the Twitter is fun, it's good, keep everyone happy, but there's no point attacking people. I feel that just it brings down the negativity to the whole Web3, and then that's probably one of the reasons why people just not many people want to join, because it's just difficult, right? And it's hard. One day you're being very, very good and hyped up, and then the next day people are like bombarding, spreading the hate and all that stuff. I feel that we already have so much issue around the world. Obviously, we all know what happened these days. But I feel that we should, that's Web3 is kind of like another path where people kind of like turn off to kind of like, this is my space. I want to kind of dive myself out from the reality, what happened right now with all the inflation and all this bullshit. Web3 might be like my gateway to kind of like my peace of mind. So I feel that people should, yes, you can't control everyone. You can't control hate. You can't control what people say, but, I feel that rather than spending time to, creating hate and all this stuff, spend more time to make people happy, like encourage people. And obviously that is kind of like a nice thinking, but obviously I love to see that. Like, I feel that that's probably one of the reasons why a lot of people shy away from, shying away from Web3, because of, the very negativity. Like, if you jump on Discord from time to time, people are like, oh, there's all these arguing, same thing, Discord, Twitter, people arguing. Like, we used to have a very tight-knit community, where people were like helping each other. And I think that momentum, that excitement of people. I understand the bear market, but I think you shouldn't have your temper trying to change the other people. And I feel that it's infectious, basically. When you start one hatred message, they are gonna come through and all this stuff. But yeah.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah,
Nothing
so
but
that's
love
me.
out there.
Yeah,
Nothing but
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
love.
look, share the love. Helping each other out. I think feel that that's kind of like the message, man. Like, and we're here. We're still building. You know, we love what we do. So we're trying our best to kind of deliver more stuff. Yeah.
So KFC, will you tell listeners how they can find you on socials? What's the best way to get you on Twitter if they want to follow more of what you're doing out there and kind of hear from you more?
Also, it's a Chikn_KFC. That's me on Twitter. Feel free to leave message, talk, DM me if you want. But yeah, I think post, post something funny. Like, we love meme. Meme is fun.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And now we got the new Chick Instagram too, so we can add some really cool graphics to our posts as well. So thanks to the team for
Yeah.
that. So really excited to do that. So awesome. Well, so listeners, thanks so much for tuning in today. Really appreciate y'all being with us. One of the things, so if you really enjoyed today's podcast, would love for you to like, review, and subscribe. And if you'd like to find us anywhere on socials, you can go to 26.media and find us there. So thanks so much for tuning in. And KFC, thanks again for joining us. We really appreciated having you on, and looking forward to having you on again soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Love you,
Thank you
Casey.
for having me on.
Keep it up, buddy.
Love you all. Thank you, guys.